The way of Pope Francis is forged out of a life of simplicity. He wants the church to be a church of the poor. He has been consistently humble. Pope Francis was outspoken and took a bold stand in fighting for the welfare of the poor. Less than a week after his election as the successor of Pope Benedict XVI, Pope Francis is making his mark with his flock and has won the accolade of other religions all over the world. Tomorrow, he will be formally installed as a 267th pontiff of the Church. Joining us tonight on NewsLife is Father Francis Lucas of the Episcopal Commission of the CBCP. Good evening, Father, and welcome back to NewsLife.
Good evening, Angel.
Yes, now, Father, how is the response of the Catholic Church, especially here in the Philippines, with the election of Pope Francis?
Everybody is very happy about his election as Pope, even if Cardinal Tagle didn't make it, as a lot of us were praying for.
Yes.
But he is a very humble Pope, committed to the original message of the gospel, and he is committed also to social justice.
If we try to look at it, Father, Pope Francis seems to be a very different Pope from Pope Benedict. And upon his election, he asked the faithful to pray for him and asked them to pray with him the Our Father and Hail Mary. In short, he reached out to the people. What is his significant trait that you would say?
Well, he started with a different style from Pope Benedict XVI, but I also see a similarity in their stand, original faith that we all believe in.
Now, by naming himself Pope Francis, does this mean that he has followed the life of Saint Francis of Assisi, as many would think that way?
He intends to follow the life of Saint Francis of Assisi, and he already started that by shedding the moseta, the prestigious wear of the prestigious garb of the Pope. Of course, he did not bear himself naked like Francis of Assisi did, but he's depriving himself of all the things that brings materialism to everybody else.
Now, having said that, Father, is it a big challenge for the Church, especially here in the Philippines, to calling the Church now the Church of the poor? How do we respond to this challenge?
Christ himself has already expressed to us, through his example, the Church of the poor. And we all know that the big challenge in the poverty incidents and alleviation of poverty is due to inequality in the world. And even Pope Benedict XVI talked about this, about the economy of the world. And even Pope Paul VI started this, and also John Paul II. So what should be done is go beyond just writing and preaching and teaching, but to try to see how society can be influenced by lessening materialism and relativism and secularism, which destroys humanity and society per se.
So aside from that, Father, lessening materialism, does this mean also that the Church will its properties and do programs for the poor, feed more of the poor people?
In the past so many years in the Philippines, the Church has done this, and a lot of agrarian reform owned by the Church was done even during the time of President Marcos, during the dictatorship of Marcos.
Yes.
And if you look at the history, it's the Catholic Church who started so many orphanages, helping the poor, organizing the farmers, and labor. So it's just a continuation, but it should be more incisive in trying to analyze corruption and how it starts, and also really to come up with programs and projects that will help the poor.
How about injustices, Father? Pope Francis was known for this as well, for fighting for social injustice. Do you think now the Church has a new Pope, the Church would actually more look into how the government would work in reducing or in trying to solve social injustices?
Looking at the Philippines, the latest statement of the Catholic Church has enumerated the different problems of the country and how we should act in order to have this rectified.
Yes. So, having said that, Father, it's such a challenge for the Church as well. You've mentioned earlier about keeping the originals and trying to reach out in a more modern way. How do you see Pope Francis starting out with this?
He started with his own style, like shedding himself from pomposity. He did not ride the limousine that was for the Pope and join the bishops in their bus. Likewise, he did not wear his red shoes. He wore the old shoes that he was wearing as cardinal in Buenos Aires because he did not feel comfortable even with the new black shoes. So he also showed us, even before he became Pope, of kissing the feet of ordinary people, especially those who are poor and oppressed.
Right. Finally, Father, any last words, and how do you see this now that we have a new Pope? How can he renew the faith of many Catholics all over the world, not just here in the Philippines?
All over the world and also in the Philippines, you go to the social media, he is being praised by everybody because of his style and the way he's showing us the direction of where I think he's going to lead the Catholic Church in the world. And as such, I would like to say that we have to support this Pope. But as we support this Pope, we have to go back to ourselves and try to analyze if we are so far away from a faith that is original, that the real message of Christ entails. Because usually today, we have diluted this faith. And I think the new Pope Francis will really push to bring back, not only for the Catholics, but also as a contribution to society in the world.
Just the last one, Father, what else should the new Pope focus on, aside from those that you've mentioned earlier? Well,
he started, we can see this by what he said and what he did. But I think he will start definitely with his own. What I mean is the clergy, which starts from the structure, the way things are being done, and the operations, and last but not the least, of those who are supposed to lead the flock of Christ.
All right. Thank you very much, Father, for joining us tonight on NewsLife. That was Father Francis Lucas, Executive Secretary of the Episcopal Commission of the CBCP.